Okay, so what if the secrets to building a life that's, genuinely rich, both financially free and with real inner peace? What if those weren't some kind of mystical, unattainable ideals, but actually, well, a set of learnable skills, shifts in mindset? Imagine having access to this, like distilled wisdom, something that cuts through all the noise and gives you clear, actionable insights. On how to get both abundance and tranquility. Well, that's exactly what we're embarking on today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Our journey today steers us right into the profound insights of Naval Ravikant. And our source material, it's truly remarkable, the Almanack of Naval Ravikant, a guide to wealth and happiness. It was brilliantly curated by Eric Jorgensen. Now, this is a book Naval himself sat down and wrote, like in the traditional sense. Think of it more as this meticulously woven tapestry, right? Compiled from years of his interviews, those viral tweets he does, podcast appearances, various writings. It's really a synthesis of a lifetime of thinking from one of the most, influential and surprisingly accessible minds out there, operating right at that intersection of tech, philosophy, and personal growth. So our mission for this deep dive is pretty precise. We're going to unpack the most crucial nuggets of knowledge from this incredible collection. And for you, our astute listener, you already follow and understand a lot of the nuances here, so we want to go beyond just a summary. We're here to help you navigate these often complex, deeply intertwined paths: wealth creation, happiness cultivation, turning what might seem like, philosophical or abstract ideas, turning them into clear, actionable understanding that you can actually apply right now to your own life. So get ready. We're going to explore core principles that, frankly, challenge conventional wisdom. They offer a refreshing, powerful perspective on how to achieve that elusive state, a life you genuinely don't need to escape from.
It really is an incredibly compelling idea, isn't it? And almost counterintuitive for so many people. The idea that these two things, building serious wealth and cultivating deep happiness, that they're not just compatible, but fundamentally interconnected. And maybe even more importantly, that there's a systematic way, almost like an algorithm, to approach both. See, Ravikant doesn't just offer, feel-good advice. He gives you a rigorous framework. He grounds his philosophy in first principles, in economics, and importantly, his own extensive personal experience as a really successful entrepreneur and investor. So it's less about chasing like fleeting tips and tricks and much more about fundamental shifts in how you perceive value, effort, and ultimately what truly brings fulfillment.
I couldn't agree more. And speaking of fundamental shifts, let's dive right in. Head first into that first major pillar of Ravikant's philosophy: wealth. But please, everyone listening, try to set aside any preconceived notions you might have about wealth just being about piling up money or, flashy possessions. Naval's approach here is way more nuanced and honestly quite revolutionary. He kicks things off with a statement that just immediately reframes everything. Making money is not a thing you do, it's a skill you learn. Wow. Okay, that instantly tells you this isn't about luck, right? Or some inherited talent. It's about a learnable discipline, a craft you can actually master. What does that single statement really imply for someone trying to build genuine financial freedom?
Well, it fundamentally shifts the locus of control, doesn't it? If it's a skill, then theoretically anyone can learn it. Anyone can refine it, get better at it, regardless of where they're starting from. It sort of demystifies the whole thing. It democratizes wealth creation in a way, moves away from that idea that wealth is like winning the lottery or something only for a privileged few. Instead, it positions it as something achievable through deliberate practice, understanding core principles and applying them consistently over time. Much like any other complex skill, really, whether it's learning an instrument or mastering a new language.
And he immediately clarifies what he means by wealth, drawing this really crucial distinction. It's not the money itself. He defines wealth as assets that earn while you sleep. This is just absolutely crucial because it's the complete opposite of what most people do day in, day out. We're talking about true ownership here. Businesses you create, products you develop, maybe media you publish or code you write. It's about building something that keeps generating value, keeps generating income, even when you're not actively physically working on it, which stands in stark contrast to that traditional model, right? Just trading your time for money, which inherently limits your earning potential to the finite hours you can actually work. So what are the really deep implications of stop trading time for money?
Oh, that distinction between wealth and money is absolutely paramount. And stop trading time for money. That's Naval pinpointing the single biggest bottleneck in conventional wealth building. Your time is, by definition, finite. It just is. No matter how much you earn per hour, there are only so many hours in a day. Your income stops the second you stop working. So this creates a linear, one-to-one relationship between your effort and your reward, which fundamentally makes exponential growth impossible. Think about, say, a highly paid surgeon. makes a ton per hour, right? But they can only operate for so many hours a day. Their income is capped, hard capped by their available time. So the crucial mindset shift Naval is advocating for is moving from that linear exchange to a model where your efforts can be leveraged to produce non-linear returns. You invest your time once, maybe upfront, but the value it generates can compound and scale, ideally independently of your continuous presence. That's the difference between being a laborer, even a highly skilled, highly paid one, and being an owner. It's about building systems, products, content, things that work for you, rather than you constantly working for them. And that really is the ultimate key to escaping the whole rat race idea, because your income is no longer directly tied to your physical presence or your moment-to-moment effort.
And that perfectly leads us right into the concept of leverage. Naval sees leverage as, well, the ultimate key to building wealth. He basically says it's how you amplify your output, right? Without proportionally increasing your input of time or effort. It's the force multiplier, the thing that allows a small group, or maybe even just one person, to have a massive impact and generate immense value. He actually talks about how to get rich without getting lucky, which I think that's a strategy we can all get behind. He emphasizes avoiding these luck-based approaches, prioritizing instead things like knowledge, accountability, and of course leverage. He's not saying luck doesn't exist, obviously, but that you shouldn't rely on it. You build systems that attract good luck.
Exactly. He argues there are different kinds of luck. There's blind luck, just random chance. Then there's luck from hustle, working hard creates more surface area for opportunities. Then there's luck from preparation, being ready when an opportunity finally strikes. And then the rarest, most powerful kind, luck that finds you because of your unique character, your reputation, your specific skills. So by focusing on knowledge, accountability, and leverage, you put yourself in a position to actively attract those third and fourth kinds of luck. You essentially make yourself lucky through deliberate, strategic action.
Okay, so let's break down these 4 specific types of leverage he highlights, because this is where it gets really practical, understanding how to apply these principles. First, there's labor. That's probably the most traditional form, other people working for you. Think about any standard business with employees.
Yeah, labor is the classic approach, definitely. It lets you scale beyond just what you can do yourself. If you hire 10 people, theoretically, you can achieve 10 times your individual output. But it comes with its own set of pretty significant limitations. Managing people introduces complexity, right? Communication overhead, coordination challenges, and the scaling factor tends to be more linear. While it's valuable, absolutely necessary in many businesses, it's not the kind of infinite scalability that Ravikant really champions for the modern age. You're still basically exchanging a managerial input for a scaled output, and that output is inherently tied back to human hours. Plus, it's often the hardest form of leverage to manage well, requires immense soft skills.
Okay, number 2, capital. Money working for you. This is probably familiar to a lot of listeners, investing, deploying funds to generate returns, maybe starting a business that needs significant upfront cash.
Capital leverage is incredibly powerful, no doubt. It lets money generate more money through investments, businesses, assets like real estate. It's the engine of a huge part of the world's economy. However, it often requires significant pre-existing capital to really move the needle. And it carries inherent market risks, of course. The big barrier is you need that initial capital to even start playing the game, which blocks a lot of people out. While it's certainly a common path to wealth, especially if you're already financially established, it's not what Naval calls permissionless. You typically need to acquire that capital somehow or raise it. You're often beholden to market forces or investors.
Right, and here's where it gets really interesting, I think, because he pivots to 2 forms of leverage that are just truly transformative in the modern world, especially for individuals: code and media. He describes both of these as permissionless leverage and states pretty unequivocally that they scale infinitely. This is where that barrier to entry just collapses.
This is absolutely where Ravikant's insights feel most relevant for the digital age. It's a radical departure from historical models of scaling. So code, that refers to building products or software. Think about someone creating an app, a SaaS platform, maybe an algorithm. Once that code is written, potentially by just one person or a small team, it can be replicated and distributed to millions, maybe even billions, of users at virtually zero marginal cost. Think about that, zero marginal cost. A single developer can, theoretically, write an app that serves a global market. And it's permissionless because you don't need a gatekeeper's approval, right? You don't need permission from some big corporation to create software and put it out into the world via the internet or app stores. The internet is the distribution channel. It bypasses the old guards. And similarly, media. This encompasses things like books, blogs, podcasts like this one, videos, any form of digital content, really. Once you write that book, record that podcast episode, create that video, That single piece of content can be consumed by an essentially infinite number of people, again, with near zero marginal cost per additional consumer. It's also permissionless because platforms like YouTube, Substack, Spotify, or even just your own website allow you to publish directly to a global audience. You don't need a traditional publisher, a major record label, or a big media company to say yes. You just create and publish. The significance of this permissionless leverage, code, and media, it really can't be overstated because it democratizes the ability to achieve massive scale. Historically, if you wanted to reach millions, you needed factories, millions in capital, or the backing of a major media empire. Today, a single individual with a laptop, an internet connection, and crucially specific knowledge can create a software product or a piece of media that impacts and serves millions. This completely bypasses traditional gatekeepers that allows for unparalleled scalability, which is why it's so central to Ravikant's wealth-building philosophy for today's world.
That distinction really does flip the script on how we think about scale and access. It's huge. But okay, this sounds fantastic, right? Build something with code or media, put it out there, watch it scale. But how do you actually ensure you're building something sustainable, something with real value, not just, chasing fleeting trends or hoping for a one-hit wonder? Ravikant has a very clear answer here: playing long-term games and cultivating an absolutely impeccable reputation. He advises us to play games with people who have high integrity. It's about being incredibly selective with whom you associate, whom you build, with business partners, co-founders, even your audience, arguably. And the reason for this is profound. Reputation compounds like interest. That's such a powerful analogy. It suggests that every positive interaction, every promise kept, every time you act with honesty, every time you deliver more than expected, it all adds up over time. It grows exponentially, just like compound interest in an investment account. How does this compounding reputation actually work in the real world? Why is it such a massive strategic advantage?
Oh, the long-term strategic advantage is immense. In a world where information and reputation spreads like wildfire, your reputation absolutely precedes you. If you consistently operate with integrity, you build this deep reservoir of trust. And that trust then acts like a magnet. It attracts better opportunities, better partners, more loyal customers, and ultimately, greater success. Why does it compound? Because trust dramatically reduces transaction costs. Think about it. People are just more willing to collaborate, to invest, to buy from, to do business with someone they implicitly trust. It greases all the wheels. Think of someone like, I don't know, a veteran VC or a seasoned entrepreneur whose name alone just opens doors and attracts top talent. It's not just about their past successes, it's the integrity they built along the way. Choosing not to cheat, even when maybe it offers a tempting short-term gain, is a direct investment in that compounding reputation. It signals reliability, honesty, long-term thinking. In any competitive market, being known as someone who operates with high integrity becomes a massive differentiator. It's a sustainable competitive advantage that your competitors just can't easily replicate by, say, lowering prices or copying features. So it's not just about being nice or moral in some abstract sense. It's a deeply strategic business decision that pays huge dividends over a lifetime. Better deals, easier negotiations, more loyal customers. It helps you avoid playing those stupid games and winning those stupid prizes.
That makes complete sense. Okay, so who you play the game with is vital, but what about what you actually bring to the game, that unique value proposition? This is where Ravikant introduces the concept of specific knowledge. He describes it as knowledge that's learned by doing. It's often really difficult to teach formally, and crucially, it often feels like play to you but looks like work to others. He even suggests it often comes from your passion or a hobby that gets transformed into a valuable skill.
Yeah, specific knowledge is incredibly valuable precisely because it's inherently rare and difficult to replicate. It's not easily transferable. Unlike general knowledge stuff you can get from formal education or book-specific knowledge is often tacit. It's embedded, gained through unique experiences, through solving messy, real-world problems, through deep, passionate engagement with a particular domain over time. It's the kind of knowledge that makes you effectively irreplaceable in that specific niche, because others can't just pick it up from a textbook or weekend workshop. It gives you a unique perspective and intuitive understanding that others simply lack. So how do you cultivate your own specific knowledge? Ravikant suggests looking inward. What did you do effortlessly as a kid? What subjects just naturally grabbed your attention, even without being assigned? What do you enjoy doing that other people seem to find difficult or tedious? It's about identifying your genuine curiosities, your natural aptitudes, and then just diving deep into them obsessively, and then crucially connecting them with actual market needs. For example, maybe someone is deeply passionate about, I don't know, vintage synthesizers, And they also happen to have an innate knack for writing clear, concise, technical documentation. Their specific knowledge isn't just in synths or just in writing. It's at the intersection, maybe creating the world's best online resource for understanding and repairing rare synths. That specific combination is powerful. This isn't usually taught in schools, right? It's discovered by combining seemingly disparate interests and skills authentically. And that unique combination makes you stand out. It drastically reduces competition because who else has that exact blend? And it increases your value to the market because you can solve problems others can't in ways they haven't even thought of. It's a continuous process, really. Discovery, refinement, often fueled by genuine curiosity, not just the pursuit of reward.
Okay, so find your unique niche, nurture that specific knowledge, and then critically take ownership.
Right.
Because Ravikant really stresses that accountability and ownership are absolutely paramount if you want to truly reap the rewards. He highlights the importance of taking responsibility for the outcomes of your work, which directly correlates with your ability to capture the upside, the value created. And he extends this to building your personal brand and reputation online, which ties right back into that idea of compounding reputation we were just discussing. Your online presence becomes part of your specific knowledge package deal, in a way. But the core message here, the real kicker, I think, is own equity in businesses. That's how real wealth is built. Can you unpack that? What's the fundamental difference between owning equity and just earning a salary, however high?
Oh, this is such a foundational distinction, and one that so many people, frankly, miss or don't fully grasp. A salary is essentially renting out your time. You get paid for your hours, your skills, your effort, largely regardless of the ultimate success or failure of the whole enterprise. It provides stability, sure, but it fundamentally caps your upside. When the company hits a home run and makes millions or billions, your salary probably stays pretty much the same. Maybe you get a bonus. And conversely, if the company loses money, you generally still get paid your salary, at least for a while. Ownership, though, specifically equity, fundamentally aligns your incentives with the long-term success and value creation of the business. When you own equity, whether it's shares in a startup you joined, a piece of your own company, or even intellectual property you've created, you're not just getting paid for your time input. You participate directly in the growth, the profits, the increasing value of the entire enterprise as perceived by the market. This is precisely how you benefit from that leverage we talked about earlier, the code, the media, the capital, the labor. If a business uses code leverage to scale to millions of users and you own even a small piece of that business, your wealth can grow completely disproportionately to your individual time input. Massively so. You benefit from the collective effort, from the compounding value creation, from the market's perception of your assets' future worth. It's about shifting from being a wage earner and input cost to being an owner of assets, assets that appreciate and generate wealth, ideally while you sleep. That's the path to true financial freedom he lays out.
So what Naval is saying then is that while hard work is important, obviously, and necessary, it's not the ultimate driver of outsized wealth creation. He says that judgment is rare and more valuable than hard work. Wow. That really challenges the ingrained notion, doesn't it? That sheer effort, just logging more hours, grinding harder is all you need to get ahead. Instead, he emphasizes the critical importance of prioritizing decision-making, developing good instincts, good judgment. How is smart decision-making a force multiplier on leverage? Why is it more valuable than just grinding away?
It's a really profound point, and it connects directly back to leverage. Think about it. If leverage amplifies your actions, then good judgment is the force multiplier that directs that amplified energy effectively towards the right target. Put it this way. A poor decision, even when combined with massive leverage, can lead to absolutely monumental, spectacular failure. Quickly. Imagine building a technically brilliant piece of software that's code leverage, right? But making a fundamentally flawed strategic decision about its market fit, or misjudging a key partnership, or pricing it completely wrong. All that amplified effort from the code leverage, it goes to waste. Or worse, it creates a huge amplified loss. Conversely, a truly brilliant decision, combined with high leverage, can create extraordinary, almost unbelievable outsized positive outcomes. And judgment isn't just about making any choices, it's about making wise choices, often with incomplete information, in complex, uncertain environments. That's the hard part. It's about foresight, pattern recognition gleaned from deep experience and wide reading, and a really solid understanding of underlying principles, maybe economic principles, human nature, technological trends. This kind of judgment, which is honed through continuous learning and thoughtful reflection on successes and failures, allows you to identify the right problems to solve in the first place, the right people to partner with, the right market to enter, the right forms of leverage to apply, and when. It means knowing when to say yes, absolutely, But perhaps even more importantly, knowing when to say no to opportunities that might seem attractive on the surface but are fundamentally misaligned or are just bad bets. Good judgment turns the raw, brute power of leverage into a precise, incredibly effective tool for wealth creation. It makes your efforts vastly more impactful than mere hard work alone could ever be. Like he implies, hard work without good judgment is like running full speed, but in completely the wrong direction. You get nowhere fast, maybe even dig yourself into a hole.
Okay, and how do you develop that kind of rare, high-leverage judgment? It seems to circle right back to another core principle of his. Cultivate a love for learning, a deep, genuine love for learning. He stresses the importance of continuous learning, urging us to read widely, read deeply, read things that challenge you. And he also really highlights those foundational skills, reading for deep comprehension, writing with clarity, and arithmetic for logical thinking and basic probability as essential building blocks for everything else.
Yes, absolutely. Ravikant posits that being a perpetual learner is essentially the ultimate advantage in his entire philosophy. It underpins everything else. Think about it. In a world that's changing so rapidly, where technology constantly reshakes entire industries, where new forms of leverage are emerging all the time, and information just proliferates, the ability to continually acquire new knowledge, to unlearn old paradigms that no longer serve you, and to adapt, it's absolutely crucial. The sheer rate of change demands it. You can't stand still. And this integrates perfectly with all the other wealth building principles we've been discussing. Continuous learning is what fuels your specific knowledge. It allows you to discover new areas of potential expertise, deepen the ones you already have, and combine disparate fields in novel, valuable ways. It refines your judgment by exposing you to diverse perspectives, different mental models, historical precedents, the outcomes of various decision-making frameworks. It helps you make smarter choices over time. And it enables you to identify and effectively utilize new forms of leverage as they emerge, or adapt existing ones to new contexts. Those foundational skills he emphasizes: reading for comprehension, writing for clarity, arithmetic for logical reasoning, and understanding probability. They are the very tools that make advanced learning possible and actionable in the first place. Without them, you really can't fully engage with the complex ideas necessary to cultivate specific knowledge or sharpen your judgment effectively. So yeah, being a perpetual learner, it's the engine that drives all other progress in his model. It's how you stay relevant, effective, and impactful in a dynamic world.
Okay, fantastic. So we've explored Naval Ravikant's really powerful framework for building wealth. It emphasizes things like ownership, permissionless leverage, integrity, specific knowledge, accountability, that razor-sharp judgment, and continuous learning. It's a very holistic and often, unconventional approach to achieving financial freedom. But as we know, for Naval, wealth is only half the equation, right? Maybe not even the most important half. It simply sets the stage, clears the path for what many people seek even more deeply: true happiness, inner peace, fulfillment. So let's shift our focus now. Let's dive into that second core pillar, happiness. And this is where Ravikant's sort of internal approach to fulfillment really shines through. He starts with another really profound statement, one that resonates deeply and immediately challenges a lot of common assumptions we have. He says, a calm mind, a fit body, and a house full of love. These things cannot be bought. They must be earned. Wow. That immediately tells you true happiness isn't something you acquire externally, not by collecting more stuff, more money, more status.
Instead, he views happiness not as some static state you arrive at or a lucky break, but as a skill you develop.
That is such a radical reframe for so many people, isn't it? Because it puts the agency squarely back into your hands. If happiness is a skill, well, that implies it can be practiced, it can be honed, it can be improved, just like any other skill, whether it's playing chess or learning to cook. This perspective really empowers the individual. It suggests that your baseline emotional state is largely within your control, rather than being constantly at the mercy of external circumstances, market crashes, what other people do or say. It means you're not just sitting around waiting for something to happen to you to finally be happy. No, you're actively cultivating that state from within. It's an inside job. And a core part of developing this skill, according to Ravikant, involves getting a really deep understanding of the nature of desire itself. How desire works in the mind, he states quite profoundly. Desire is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. Oof, that's a deeply insightful and maybe for some an uncomfortable truth to sit with. The implication is stark. Every single time we desire something we don't currently have, a new car, a promotion, a different relationship status, whatever, we consciously or unconsciously commit ourselves to a state of dissatisfaction. Right here, right now. The pursuit itself becomes a source of low-grade or sometimes high-grade suffering. Because the moment one desire is fulfilled, boom, another one usually pops right up to take its place. It's an endless treadmill of wanting. So the path to lasting happiness in this view involves not just endlessly trying to fulfill desires, but actually learning to free oneself from unnecessary desires altogether. It's about detaching from that endless cycle of craving and fleeting gratification, recognizing that the very act of desiring often creates a sense of lack, a deficit within you now.
That really does flip the script on how many of us, culturally maybe, have been taught to pursue happiness. Go get what you want, acquire more, chase your dreams. But he's saying that the chase itself, the constant wanting, is often the very source of our unhappiness, which is fascinating. And this leads directly to his view that your default state is happiness, not sadness, which again, for a lot of people, might sound completely counterintuitive. Given how much unhappiness and suffering we see, both in ourselves and in the world, he argues that this inherent happiness, this baseline state of peace, is often just obscured, covered up, because unhappiness is often caused by the stories we tell ourselves. The narratives, the judgments, the self-limiting beliefs, the past grievances we replay, the constant comparisons we make in our minds, that internal chatter.
This is precisely where a practice like meditation becomes incredibly relevant and very practical in Ravikant's philosophy. It's not just some woo-woo thing. He suggests that meditation helps you understand and quiet your mind. And importantly, it's not about trying to empty your mind, which is a common misconception and frankly impossible for most people. It's more about observing your thoughts, watching them arise and pass without judgment, without getting attached to them, without believing every single one. By doing that, by just watching the mental stream, you begin to see that these stories, the constant chatter about past regrets, future anxieties, comparisons to others, they're just thoughts, mental events. They are not necessarily objective reality. And crucially, you don't have to believe them. You don't have to let them dictate your emotional state. When you observe your thoughts like this, you create this crucial space, a gap between the thought itself and your reaction to it. You start to realize, maybe deeply, I am not my thoughts. You don't have to believe or act on every single narrative your mind constructs, especially the negative or limiting ones. This detachment helps to quiet that incessant mental chatter that so often fuels unhappiness. It allows you to gently disarm those internal stories that cause suffering, to see them as just temporary clouds passing in the vast sky of your consciousness, and to return more often to that default state of underlying calm and contentment that he believes is inherently within us all. It's a really profound tool for mental self-mastery. It allows you to begin to choose your emotional response rather than just being a slave to every passing thought and feeling.
So it's about observing, not identifying with those thoughts. That detachment is key to inner peace. And he emphasizes that peace comes from understanding your thoughts and, detaching from them. And a big part of cultivating this ability, he argues, is actually spending time alone, getting comfortable being alone with your own thoughts, which for many of us in this hyper-connected, always-on world, that can feel incredibly daunting or even unnatural maybe. Why is solitude such a critical component for inner peace and self-awareness in Naval's view?
Yeah, solitude is absolutely a critical and I think often very overlooked component here. In our world, we're just constantly bombarded, aren't we? External stimuli, endless notifications, emails, social media feeds, news alerts, other people's opinions, desires, demands on our time and attention. It's relentless. And this constant external input makes it incredibly difficult to actually hear our own inner voice, to process our own emotions authentically, to understand our true desires separate from all that external influence and societal programming. When you consciously choose to spend time alone, you intentionally remove those external pressures and distractions. For a period, it kind of forces you, maybe gently, maybe not so gently, to confront your own thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs head on, without the easy escape hatch of a screen or a conversation or some busy work. And yeah, this can be uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to that constant stimulation, that constant external validation loop. But by sitting with your thoughts, by just being with yourself, you start to develop a much deeper understanding of your own internal landscape, your own mental patterns. You learn to differentiate between, say, genuine intuition or helpful insights and just reactive mental noise or conditioned patterns. This comfort with oneself, unmediated by constant external validation or company, is really a cornerstone of authentic inner peace. It's about building a robust internal world, a strong inner core that isn't dependent on outside circumstances for its stability or contentment. It helps you build that strong internal compass he talks about.
Right. And as we become more comfortable with ourselves and start to master our internal state, a natural consequence seems to be avoiding behaviors that actively lead to unhappiness. Ravik gives us some pretty clear, almost stark guidance here. He says, don't take things personally, don't seek status, and critically, don't chase external validation. Can you dive a bit deeper into why he views status as such a particularly dangerous game, especially when he compares it to wealth?
Oh, yeah, he has a very strong, very clear stance on status. He views it as fundamentally a zero-sum game, which is in stark contrast to wealth, which he argues is, or at least can be, positive sum. This is a really vital distinction to grasp. In a zero-sum game, for one person to gain status, someone else, somewhere, implicitly or explicitly, must lose it. It's all about hierarchy, about the pecking order. Where do you stand relative to others? This inherently creates a competitive, often envious, anxious, and ultimately, yeah, destructive dynamic. It's inherently stressful. When you're constantly seeking status, you're trapped on this never-ending treadmill of comparison and competition. There will always be someone perceived as above you, and you'll constantly fear losing whatever standing you currently have. This is just a direct pathway to unhappiness because your sense of self-worth becomes entirely hinged on external perception and relative positioning, which is inherently unstable and scarce. Wealth creation, on the other hand, can be positive sum. When you create a valuable product or service using your specific knowledge and leverage, you can potentially create immense wealth for yourself while simultaneously creating significant value for your customers, your employees, your partners. Everyone can benefit. The overall pie can grow larger. It's not necessarily about taking from someone else. Similarly, chasing external validation, whether it's likes on social media, praise from colleagues, approval from society, trying to keep up with the Joneses with possessions, it's just an enormous energy drain. It's exhausting. You're constantly calibrating your actions, your opinions, even your sense of self-worth based on what you think others might think or expect. This completely prevents authentic living. It traps you in the cycle of needing external affirmation, which is never truly satisfying because it's always shifting, it's always conditional, and ultimately, it's completely outside your control. So, freeing yourself from this deep dependence on status and external validation is a huge, liberating step towards genuine inner peace. And it allows you the freedom to act authentically, driven by your own values rather than constantly performing for an external audience.
Okay, so with all this talk about building wealth the right way and mastering inner peace, what are the ultimate foundations? The bedrock for achieving true freedom, in Naval's view. He really boils it down to three essential elements that have to be there. First, unwavering physical and mental health. These are just non-negotiables, the base layer upon which everything else is built. Then the critical choice of relationships, your spouse, your close friends, your key business partners, who you surround yourself with. And finally, that autonomy we've touched on, the ability to truly own your time and your attention. Can you connect those dots for us? How do these three things form the foundation?
Absolutely. And all of this, I think, culminates beautifully in his ultimate definition of freedom, which is just so powerful. True freedom is owning your time and attention. This is profound because it's not just about having money in the bank or having lots of leisure time. It's about having sovereignty. True sovereignty over your most precious, most finite resources, your time on this earth, and where you direct your focus, your attention. Think about it. You could have all the money in the world, but if your time is constantly dictated by other people's demands, or your attention is perpetually hijacked by distractions, alerts, urgent but unimportant obligations, or other people's agendas, are you really free? He'd argue no. You're still in a cage, even if it happens to be a very comfortable gilded cage. The practical implications of defining freedom this way are vast. It means intentionally designing your life to minimize commitments that just drain your time and attention without giving you a significant return aligned with your core values. It means being incredibly selective, ruthless almost, about what information you consume, who you spend significant time interacting with, and which problems you choose to dedicate your energy to solving. It's about having the autonomy to pursue what truly matters to you without being constantly beholden to external schedules, soul-crushing commutes, the demands of a boss you don't respect, or even a demanding social circle that doesn't truly nourish you. This kind of freedom, which is enabled by both sufficient financial independence and that internal peace we talked about, allows you to live a life that's deeply aligned with your own values, where you truly get to decide how you spend your moments, your days, your life. It means not just having the resource to do what you want, but also having the mental clarity, the self-awareness, and the self-discipline to actually do it. Instead of just constantly reacting to whatever external forces are pushing and pulling you, your health provides the fundamental energy. Your key relationships provide the support, the love, the joy. And owning your time and attention ensures you can actually experience and enjoy that life on your own terms.
That definition of freedom, it really does reshape how we think about success, doesn't it? Completely. It's not just about the financial metrics. It's about this deep intrinsic sense of control and alignment in your life. And speaking of redefining things, Ravikant offers a truly provocative take on retirement. Another one that just makes you stop and think, he states, retirement is when you stop sacrificing today for an imaginary tomorrow. Wow, that is such a powerful statement because it fundamentally challenges that traditional view, right? Of working your whole life, often unhappily, slogging away for some distant, often ill-defined future point where you can finally relax or be free.
Yeah, this definition of retirement is incredibly liberating. And it's really a direct consequence of successfully combining wealth and happiness using Ravikant's philosophy. It basically means that if you've managed to build a life where your work itself is fulfilling, maybe because it leverages your specific knowledge, things you genuinely enjoy, where your time is largely your own to dictate, and your mind is generally at peace because you've worked on mastering your desires and internal narratives, well, then you don't really need to retire in that traditional sense of stopping work altogether. Why would you? You're already living a life you don't feel the need to escape from. That is the goal. The deep implication is that true success isn't about hitting a certain age or a specific number in your bank account where you can finally stop doing things you dislike.
Mhm.
It's about designing a life, starting now, where you're not constantly sacrificing your present well-being, your present joy, your present freedom for some hypothetical, uncertain future. It really challenges the whole notion of endlessly delaying gratification when it comes to happiness and fulfillment. Instead of constantly postponing joy until someday, it encourages integrating passion, purpose, and autonomy into your daily life now, as much as possible. It's about having sufficient wealth to find his way through assets and leverage that allows you the freedom to dictate how you spend your time and attention today, making every day feel less like a sacrifice and more like a conscious, enjoyable choice. It's a really holistic perspective on life design, striving for an existence where your work and your leisure ideally kind of blur together into one satisfying continuum driven by your own choices. You're building a life where, in a sense, every day feels like a form of retirement because you're doing what you want, when you want, with whom you want, driven by internal motivations, not external compulsions.
So ultimately, the core message weaving through all of Naval Ravikant's wisdom seems incredibly clear. Seek freedom, not just comfort. Seek sovereignty over your life. And to achieve that, wealth and happiness are not mutually exclusive at all. In fact, they're deeply intertwined, synergistic. They aren't separate quests you pursue one after the other, like I'll get rich first, then I'll figure out happiness. No, they support each other.
Precisely. Ravikant's philosophy guides you to combine wealth and happiness by showing exactly how each one supports and actually amplifies the other. It's a virtuous cycle. Wealth, when built intelligently through leverage and ownership, provides the essential resources, especially the freedom of time and attention, that are crucial for genuinely pursuing happiness, cultivating inner peace, maintaining your health, nurturing relationships. It frees you from that constant gnawing anxiety of scarcity. It frees you from the necessity of trading your precious, finite time for money just to survive. Conversely, a calm and happy mind, one that's unburdened by unnecessary desires, crippling anxieties, or the destructive pursuit of status, makes fundamentally wiser decisions, better judgment. This inner clarity, this peace, allows you to identify and harness leverage more effectively. It helps you play the long game. And it prevents the kind of self-sabotage driven by fear, greed, or ego that can so easily undermine even the best-laid plans for wealth creation. So they create this positive feedback loop. Financial freedom enables a life of greater peace and autonomy, and that inner peace enables better decision-making that sustains and grows your wealth and freedom. It's really about building a robust foundation on both fronts simultaneously. So you're not ending up wealthy but miserable, or maybe happy but constantly struggling financially. It's the integrated path to a truly rich life, in every sense of the word.
That's beautifully put. And to really encapsulate his wisdom, maybe let's reflect on some of his most powerful quotes, those short, memorable phrases that just pack so much insight. First, he tells us, escape competition through authenticity.
Ah, yes. This is all about finding your unique voice, digging deep for your genuine specific knowledge, and having the courage to just be yourself, unapologetically. When you are truly authentic, when you bring your unique perspective, your unique experiences, your unique blend of skills to the table, you naturally create a category of one. There's no direct competition because nobody else can be you. It's such a powerful way to stand out, to create unique value that others can't easily replicate, and to carve your own path without getting caught in that exhausting, soul-crushing rat race of trying to constantly beat others at their game. It's about finding and doing what only you can do in a way only you can do it.
Love that.
Wow.
Okay, next, a rather blunt one, but incredibly insightful. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Haha, yeah, that one cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? It's a stark warning against engaging in activities or pursuits that don't genuinely serve your long-term wealth or happiness, or that are fundamentally designed to extract value from you rather than build value with you. It's about avoiding those zero-sum status games we talked about earlier, or chasing short-term, maybe unethical, gains that compromise your integrity and your long-term reputation. Basically, if the game itself is inherently flawed, if it's built on false premises, if it doesn't align with your deepest values, then any win you might achieve within that game will ultimately feel hollow, unsatisfying, or maybe even actively detrimental to your real goals. It's a powerful call to choose your arenas, choose your battles, choose your games very wisely, and make sure the game itself is actually worth playing for the long haul.
Absolutely. And finally, a truly profound one that kind of brings us full circle, I think. When you're finally wealthy, you'll realize that it wasn't what you were seeking in the first place.
This quote really drives home the ultimate point, doesn't it? Wealth, as he defines it, is an incredibly powerful tool. It's a means to very important ends, but it is not the end goal itself. What it grants you, ideally, is freedom. Freedom from financial anxiety, yes. But more importantly, freedom to own your time and attention. Freedom to pursue what truly matters to you. And it's often in that freedom, once you attain it, that you discover what you truly desire. And often those things are things that money itself cannot directly buy. Deep inner peace, vibrant health, truly meaningful relationships, a sense of purpose, the ability to create and contribute without constraint or compulsion. It's such a powerful reminder that the journey of wealth creation, if it's done wisely and ethically according to his principles, actually leads you to a deeper understanding of what truly matters in life. And it's usually not the money itself, but the liberating life that money enables. It encourages a constant internal check. Why am I doing this? What am I really seeking?
Beautiful. And if we had to distill all of this wisdom, all these incredible insights from the Almanack of Naval Ravikant down into just a single actionable line, maybe it'd be this. Learn to build wealth ethically and intelligently while mastering happiness from within. Wow. What an incredible journey we've taken today, diving deep into Naval Ravikant's Guide to Wealth and Happiness. We've really unpacked his profound, often counterintuitive, but highly actionable insights. From the transformative power of, ownership and that permissionless leverage, all the way to the subtle art of cultivating inner peace by mastering your desires, your internal narratives. It's such a holistic view, isn't it? Powerfully reminding us that true freedom really comes when you're not just financially independent, but also internally unburdened. When you're actively designing life you genuinely want to live day by day.
Absolutely. And as you, listening, reflect on everything we've discussed today, the emphasis on cultivating your unique, specific knowledge, the long-term strategic value of reputation and integrity, that critical distinction between wealth and mere money, and maybe most powerfully, the idea that happiness is a skill you can actually develop. Maybe consider this provocative thought for yourself just to mull over. What one small, intentional choice could you make today? It could be tiny. Maybe in how you decide to spend the next hour of your time, or what desire you choose not to chase, or what specific knowledge you decide to nurture just a little bit. What small choice could move you just one single step closer towards building that life you truly don't need to escape from? It's really about beginning that conscious design process right now, even in a small way, with deliberate intent.
Let these principles resonate. Let them maybe reshape your own approach as you strive for wealth, as you cultivate happiness. We sincerely hope this deep dive has provided you with some real clarity, maybe a fresh perspective, and hopefully some genuine inspiration to pursue a life of authentic abundance and deep, abiding peace. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration today.